My name is Julia. And that night everything changed. It wasn't just any night, but the beginning of a metamorphosis that would rewrite the contours of my life. I never imagined that fate would bring me to such a shocking crossroads, where the past dissolved and the future whispered tempting promises. I, Julia, a married woman, linked for years to a man who I considered my pillar, suddenly found myself faced with something unknown, forbidden, irresistible. It wasn't a simple physical attraction. It was a visceral call, a distant but unmistakable echo of the soul, a melody that I could no longer ignore. That evening, every detail seemed imbued with a magnetic aura. The soft light of the hotel room caressed the walls. The distant rhythm of my heart rumbled like an ancient drum, and the whole world seemed suspended in waiting. In front of me, 3 men were watching me, their gazes full of expectations, unexpressed desires, and unspeakable promises. What began as a game was turning into a reality I had never dared to imagine. It was as if the entire universe was conspiring to lead me to that moment. My marriage to Luca seemed perfect, at least on the surface. He was a loving, caring man, a companion who knew how to listen and comfort. But there was a corner of my being that remained inaccessible, a secret room inside me that not even he could open. It was an ancient need, a silent yearning towards the new, the mysterious, the intensity of a thrill never experienced. It wasn't his fault, nor mine. It was as if a part of me yearned to live beyond the boundaries of the known, to explore what simultaneously defined me and eluded me. I had met them in a bar, a place where the soft lights hid secrets, and the conversations were whispers stolen from the silence. Antonio, Giovanni, and Marco, 3 men, each bearer of a unique and magnetic essence. Antonio, with his bold smile, promised endless adventures. Giovanni, with his penetrating gaze, seemed to read into the deepest recesses of my soul. Marco, the quietest, radiated a calm strength, an aura that spoke more than 1,000 words. Every gesture, every word exchanged that evening was a prelude, a crescendo symphony that culminated in the deafening silence of the hotel room. Their eyes were on me, and I felt the power in my hands, an intoxicating sensation I had never felt before. I rose from the couch with slow movements, aware of every breath, every heartbeat. Each step was a crescendo of tension, an electric anticipation that vibrated in the air, as if time itself was holding its breath. I stopped in front of Antonio. His presence was intense, his heart beating forcefully under my hand like an impatient drum. "Are you ready for me?" I whispered, my voice a breath that carried with it secret and unexplored promises. My words broke the silence like lightning on a calm night, and in an instant Antonio pulled me towards him. His embrace was strong, enveloping, a refuge and a storm at the same time. His kiss, an explosion of desire and audacity, erased every thought, every memory, every hesitation. There was no more room for remorse, only for the present, vibrant and absolute. Giovanni approached, his touch firm and reassuring, while Marco, with his delicate ways, touched me as if trying to read every fragment of my soul. Every caress, every whisper was an invitation to let go, to demolish the barriers I had built around myself for years. The room pulsated with a life of its own. The walls seemed to reverberate the warmth of our intertwined bodies, a dance of shadows and lights that reflected the storm of our emotions. I felt Giovanni's hands running along my back, Antonio's lips caressing my neck, Marco's touch lighting up every fiber of my being. I was no longer a wife. I was no longer the Julia I always was. I was a woman who discovered herself, who reinvented herself in ways I never thought possible. Every moment was a crescendo of emotions, a journey into the unknown that took me further and further away from everyday reality. It wasn't just the physical pleasure that overwhelmed me, but the awareness of being at the center of something extraordinary. I was desired, venerated, adored like never before. Time seemed to expand, every second a universe of sensations to explore, every moment a fragment of eternity. And have you ever wanted to find yourself in a situation like the one I'm experiencing? Write it in the comments. When Marco finally stepped forward, his touch was different, slow, thoughtful, like a melody played with care and passion. Each movement was a story, and I got lost in that narrative, unable to distinguish where I ended and where they began. For a moment my mind wandered to Luca, not out of guilt, but to recognize that there was a part of me that he would never know, a part that now belonged only to myself. That night was not just a meeting of bodies, but a journey into the deepest essence of human desire. Every look, every breath, every touch was a piece of a mosaic that told who I was and who I could become. When I finally gave myself over completely, I felt the world dissolve into myriad lights and shadows, leaving me suspended in a dream I didn't want to wake up from. In that room, at that moment, I was free, not a wife, not a prisoner of other people's expectations, but simply Julia, a woman who had found the courage to listen to the deepest call of her heart. And as the night slowly wore on, I knew that that memory would burn inside me forever, a living, unquenchable flame that would illuminate my every shadow. No one would ever know what happened in that room, and yet, for me, that moment held the power to change everything. Marco, the quietest of the three, gently took me by the hand, leading me towards the bed. His intense gaze met mine, and without the need for words, he conveyed to me an overwhelming emotion, capable of taking my breath away. His hands, soft and slow, touched me, as if I were a rare treasure to be treasured. It was a dance of contrasts. The sweetness of his touch clashed with the irresistible energy that seemed to envelop us. Every movement had the weight of an oath, and while his lips touched my neck, the other two men didn't stop caressing me, intertwining their attentions like a perfect harmony. The atmosphere was charged with an electricity that I had never felt, a whirlwind of emotions that made me feel alive in a new and unexpected way. Their touch, calibrated and constant, was a hymn to desire, an invitation to let myself go completely. I was surrounded by that symphony of gestures, and for a moment I felt as if I were at the center of the universe. Yet a spark of unease began to creep into the folds of my mind. I was crossing a line I never thought I could cross. The thought of Luca hit me like a sudden pang. I loved my husband, despite everything. But love and desire were becoming confused, intertwining in a tangle of sensations that I couldn't untangle. Every kiss and every caress carried with it the weight of a betrayal, a secret that attracted and scared me at the same time. How could I face the next day? How could I look Luca in the eyes knowing that I had embraced the unknown with such absolute passion? Yet in that moment, the sense of guilt dissolved before the power of the moment. Every breath, every caress, every whisper overwhelmed me like waves that erased the traces left on the sand. I let myself go, deciding to live every moment with an intensity I had never known. Time seemed suspended, as if the whole world was holding its breath. As the hours passed, the room filled with a different silence, an immobile stillness that followed the tumult of emotions. The heavy breath subsided, leaving room for deep intimacy. I was exhausted, but in a sweet way, as if I had discovered a new language to talk about myself. The three men lying next to me observed me with looks full of admiration and respect, as if I had given them something unique, a fragment of my essence. I slowly got up from the bed and approached the mirror. The woman who gave me the reflection was different. The features were the same, but my eyes shone with a new light, a fire I had never seen before. I had challenged my limits, knocked down walls I had built for years, and now I had to live with the weight of that discovery. When I left that room, the light of dawn enveloped me with its calm. The streets were quiet, the world seemed unchanged, yet deep down inside, I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The ride home was a mosaic of thoughts and sensations. Every moment of the night came back to my mind with disarming clarity. The sense of guilt grew, like a shadow lengthening behind me, but at the same time a thrill of excitement ran through me at the memory of that forbidden passion. Would I ever have the courage to confess? That secret would be rooted deep in my heart, hidden from the eyes of the world. When I returned home, I found Luca waiting for me. His embrace was familiar, warm, but inside me there was a storm. A vortex of love and guilt overwhelmed me, of conflicting emotions that I would have to learn to dominate. I couldn't go back. I had changed, and that change was now part of me, a living flame that would never go out. If you want to receive new videos of this series, write "I want the sequel" in the comments. If you like the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel to receive a preview of future publications. Thank you.